All right, you all, welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. I am your host, ZT, Zachary, whatever you want to call me. It is Friday, September 6th. We are on the eve of week number 6, Red River Rivalry, Texas, or OU at Texas, technically in the Cotton Bowl, neutral site as it always is. We're on the eve of another UFC card. We're on the eve of week 5 in NFL. It's a great week for sports, guys. An awesome time to be alive. October is always loaded for sports. As you guys, if you guys haven't listened to my first ever sports news weekly video, go check that out on YouTube. We talk about that. October is definitely the best month for sports, and this week 6 slate for college football definitely has some great games in store for us. So let's go ahead and break it down, guys. As usual, we'll break down our first 5 picks or our favorite 5 picks of week number 6. We'll go over our updates on our futures. We did do that on our college football week 5 recap, which is up on the YouTube if you want to go listen. But we'll run through these really quickly again. And of course, as always, we'll break down each of the top 25 matchups as quickly as we possibly can, go over what we like in spreads and over unders, and then just any major headlines going into those games, if any. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, guys. Again, on the YouTube right now, we have a new segment which we'll be releasing either Sundays or Wednesdays. Just keep an eye on it, and will always be announced on Twitter and Instagram of our sports news weekly. And of course, we have our college football week recaps as well as previews. And this is, of course, our week 6 preview. And then tomorrow we will be dropping our UFC preview for UFC Fight Night Dawson versus Green. It's not a fight night I'm extremely excited about, but at the end of the day, it's UFC. Can never get enough of UFC. So at the end of the day, we're still going to do a preview for it. So with that being said, guys, let's jump right into it. Welcome to the week 6 picks. With that being said, let's go ahead and break down our first one. And our first one, guys, I have a little prop here. Let's see what we got here. So for the game, we are picking, yeah, if you guys couldn't guess it, we're picking the Longhorns, guys. We have Longhorns taking down OU. Horns are going to go up -5.5. It started out at 6.5, I want to say, or it started out at 5, went all the way up to 6.5. It has come down to 5.5. So I'm going to take it at 5.5. I'm going to take it all the way up to 7 points as my confident bets. But honestly, guys, I think Texas can pull it off into double digits. Nobody really knows what OU is at this point in time. And I'll give credit to them. And it's not going to be many times that you're going to hear me give credit to OU or to A&M or to Texas Tech. At the end of the day, I'm going to give credit to OU. They've taken care of business. They've blown out teams that they should be blowing out. At the end of the day, there hasn't been a team that's put up competition, or you would expect. And then they have looked a little fraudulent against like Cincinnati, for say, and Cincinnati's not a good team. So that is where the worry is there. At the end of the day, I think Texas is a better team. They have better weapons on the outside. They have a better run game. We definitely have the advantage in the trenches, which we have not been able to say for years against OU, especially against on the front line. Um, and then our defense has been outstanding, guys. We do have to have some cleanup in the secondary, and that's where I see our biggest gap is going into this game, where we've seen OU be explosive in their games. Dylan Gabriel, we didn't face him last year. He was out because of a concussion, I want to say. So that's going to be a new element. At the end of the day, he doesn't have the movement that we've been worried about for past quarterbacks. I definitely think it resembles something that we saw last week with the Kansas quarterback. I do think Gabriel's a step up from that. At the end of the day, I don't think OU has the weapons that they've had in the past either. They don't have the Marvin Mims. They don't have the CD Lambs of the world anymore. And I do think that affects them. But at the end of the day, our secondary does need to be shortened up a little bit. I definitely think this might be a coming out party for Jalen Catalan. For some reason, he's been limited all year. At the end of the day, when he's in there, he's delivering big hits. And I definitely think this is a way for him to shore up our back end. And hopefully Ryan Watts starts, but he's been a little bit shaky even without the injury. So that's a little bit worrisome. But even at the end of the day, if we do get gashed quite a bit, I think it's going to be on bigger plays, and those can be limited. Our linebackers are stout. Our defensive front is stout, and we're going to be able to put pressure on Dylan Gabriel. And I just like our chances. When you have Jody Barron, when you have Byron Murphy, when you have Burren Sorrell, when you have Jalen Ford, it's just playmakers all over the field, guys. A lot of ball hawks, to be completely honest. And I do think we can force 1 or 2 turnovers, 1 or 2 mistakes based on the pressure and just based on the ball hawking ability of the Texas defense that we've seen so far this year. And then on the offensive side, I can't I can't describe it enough how much of a revelation it's been in the backfield for us with Jonathan Brooks. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be a huge loss with Bijan and Roshan, and it was. Then it's two top caliber running backs who have been successful. Of course, Roshan got hurt last night, which is unfortunate. But they've been successful in the NFL. At the end of the day, we knew that we had a strong running back room. We didn't think it was going to be a one-headed monster, and that's what it's turned into. Jonathan Brooks has taken over. He's ran for 200 plus last week against Kansas, which is very reminiscent of Bijan the year before against Kansas. And then CJ Baxter, he just needs to stay healthy. You could see his vision, you could see his hands, you could see his burst. So it's very exciting to look forward to. But Jonathan Brooks has dominated the backfield, and he deserves all of the carries and all of the touches and all of the work. To be honest, a complete workhorse, and he's looked phenomenal. He had his first career touchdown against OU. I expect him to get another couple tomorrow as well. So if I'm breaking that one down, give me Texas minus 5.5. I just think they're better on both sides of the football. At Alabama at Texas A&M, I'm taking Alabama money line. I know this one has become unpopular. First, because it's at Texas A&M. The last time Alabama visited College Station, they did lose. They also had but at the end of the day, Alabama did beat Texas A&M last year, and you're like, oh, well, he had Bryce Young. Actually, no. Alabama did play Jalen Milroe in that game. That is when Bryce Young was hurt with an injury, and they won 24-20. I know going into College Station is a different environment. I just don't think Texas A&M is that good of a team, especially after losing their starting quarterback. We saw their flaws against Miami, who I'm not completely sold on. And I think Alabama, even with Milroe and the questionable offense, they can be just as explosive. And we saw explosive plays against UT, just as explosive as Miami. And then they have a better defense than Miami, to be completely honest. So I'm going to take Alabama money line. That spread has dropped from like 3-1. There was rumors of a possible injury to Milroe. I hope that's not the case. I haven't been able to find anything, and I'm going to go ahead and keep it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Alabama money line to go in to A&M, and at this point, it seems like an upset for the way people are trending their bets. But I'm going to take Alabama money line on the road. I don't see them getting eliminated from playoff talks this soon in the season. And then Colorado at or Arizona State. I'm not sold on Colorado. You guys have heard my takes again on them. I do think they're a mediocre team. At the end of the day, we've seen Arizona be a pretty bad team, probably bottom of the barrel with Stanford in the Pac-12. And I think Colorado's just above those two teams. They're explosive offense, no defense, and even then their offense does struggle against good teams. Arizona's not a good team. This is a case, again, like what I talked about in the Week 5 preview, what you've heard over on the Horns 2020 podcast. Sometimes you just need to find a case of a bad team facing a terrible team, a good team or an average team facing a bad team, things of that nature. I definitely think this is a bad team facing a terrible team, and I'm going to go ahead and take the bad team to win. I'm going to take Colorado -4. I think their offense has enough to get it done. Notre Dame at Louisville. I think Notre Dame wins this one. I was actually very close to picking the spread, and I still might. They're at 6.5, and we'll talk about that, breaking down the top 25. I just think Notre Dame is better on both sides of the football. Like we talked about Texas and OU. Louisville has struggled at times against defenses that are way less than the talent that Notre Dame has. They've gone under in quite a few of their matchups, and I'm going to go ahead and look that up for you guys. Sorry, I don't have it on hand. I closed out the app. They've gone under in quite a few of their matchups, and again, haven't even faced the caliber of defense that Notre Dame has, which is worrisome enough. And then Notre Dame, we've talked about it already. I mean, weeks past, they just have a running style offense. They do get two weapons back on the outside, which is a little bit concerning that they might air it out. Even then, when they air it out, we saw it in weeks 1 and 2. At the end of the day, they go back to resorting to the run game to run out the clock. And with these new rules in the college football, that tends to go under if it's a blowout and the clock is running. So I see Notre Dame relying on their physicality towards the end of the game, even if they air it out at the beginning. And this under still hits because I don't see Louisville scoring more than 13 points, to be completely honest. And I don't see Notre Dame putting up 40-plus points either. I could see this being a 35-13 game, 40-13 even, and that still covers for us there. But actually, so Louisville has split their games. They are, I want to say it's 2-3 even, on trying to go over. They went under last week at 56.5 against NC State. They only scored 10 points against NC State. For reference, the Notre Dame scored 45. It's, again, that stark difference. Notre Dame has gone under in 3 out of their first 5 games. So I definitely think it trends in that area. The only times that they got under is over NC State, 45-24. and then 41-17 against Central Michigan. Even then, Central Michigan, I think, is less than Louisville, to be completely honest, and they barely covered what would be 54.5 there. So I do like this game to hit the under. I do think it's gonna be a dominating performance for Notre Dame. So I do like also taking their spread at 6.5, or it might be 7 now. But I'm gonna take the under here just because I don't think Louisville does enough on offense to help get this over. And then this last one, guys, there's quite a bit of picks that I was like back and forth on. I'm just going to go ahead and take Vandy versus Florida because of the recent performances of Florida, just because I talk about it in the week 5 recap. They're the losers of the week there because they're bad. They're a terrible team. Or they're not terrible. They're a bad team. They are a bad team. Vandy's a bad team. This is a matchup against bad teams. And I don't see it getting into a 21-point victory plus for Florida. Graham Mertz is just not that good. And even if they are, Florida's defense is not that good. We saw Kentucky gash them. I'm not saying Vandy's anywhere close to Kentucky. At the end of the day, I do think Vandy will be able to score on Florida. And even then, I don't think Florida can put up as many points to be able to cover this spread if Vandy can score a couple touchdowns. So that's my reasoning there. If Florida does score 20-something points, I do see Vandy scoring 10-something points, 10 to 20 points themselves. So I do think Florida wins ultimately. I just don't think they have a high-powered offense to go ahead and just cover out of nowhere against Vandy, to be completely honest. They look terrible against Kentucky. It might be a get-right game for them. I just don't believe in them. It's a matchup against two bad teams, and I'll go ahead and take Vandy to cover 18.5. So those are our favorite 5 picks again, guys. Texas minus 5.5 against OU. Alabama money line at A&M. Colorado minus 4 at Arizona State. Under 54.5. Notre Dame at Louisville, and then Vandy covering 18.5 at Florida. All right, guys. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and break this down really quick. Again, we cover it a little bit more in depth in the week 5 recap earlier today, but we have Clemson. Well, we had Clemson at the beginning as a possible ACC winner. That's not going to happen. I've given up all hope. They're 1-2 in the conference after losing to Florida State and Duke, 2 teams that are above them right now, and I just don't see Florida State losing 2 more times in conference to be able to bring this back together. LSU 2-1 in the conference. They still have a chance at the SEC. Then I just don't think they're good enough on the defense to be able to compete with the likes of Georgia and Alabama and the top teams in the SEC. Texas is 2-0 in the conference. They're tied with OU. I definitely think the winner of this game will be the conference regular season winner, and I do think we're going to be able to see a rematch in the Big 12 championship at the end of the year. Pac-12, we have Oregon 2-0 in the conference. The Pac-12 is starting to beat up on each other. Washington State is now playing UCLA. We'll break that one down a little bit later on, but they've beaten Oregon State. Oregon State now beat Utah. So it's starting to be the conference that we thought it was going to be, that they start beating each other up and knock each other out of the playoff conversation. But Oregon's still looking strong at 2-0. Michigan looking strong at 2-0. They haven't had any sweats in any of their games, have gone 2-0 in their conference, and I think it stays that way. And I still think they are the best bets for the Big Ten. Our Heisman breakdown, Caleb Williams has dropped even further now, so they're at plus 175 now, getting closer and closer to even money. I do think it's going to be a 2-horse race between Michael Penix and Caleb Williams. It has come down to who plays better in the Pac-12, to be completely honest. Sam Hartman losing to Ohio State, not putting up the greatest of numbers after losing some of his weapons on the outside, has dropped back to where he was at the beginning of the season. I just don't think he has enough by the way that Notre Dame plays the game, by the way the competition they have on their schedule, to be able to catch up to Michael Penix or Caleb Williams, who are putting up astonishing numbers week in and week out. The beginning of the year favorite season totals, we had Texas over 9.5 wins. They're at 5-0, looking to go 6-0 this week. We had Stanford over 2.5 wins. I don't think it's going to hit anymore, guys, after losing in week number 3 against Sacramento State. They're at 1-4. California under 5.5 wins. This was getting scary. They beat Arizona State last week, so now they're 3-2. Mississippi State, I do think they're bottom tier of the SEC. They're under 6.5 wins. Now they're 2-3. All right, beginning of the year playoff prediction, we had Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and LSU as our top 4. All of those are looking good except LSU because they are garbage on defense. So Georgia, Michigan, and Texas still looking good. Our outside looking in was Clemson and Oregon. Clemson looks absolutely garbage as well because those 2 losses, anytime they face anybody that is competent, it gets scary and they lose. And then Oregon looking great in the Pac-12, taking care of business, blowing out teams that they should, teams that are just going for clicks, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Oregon's still looking good there on the outside looking in. So two of our top 6 from the beginning of the year are looking terrible. The rest are in good shape in the playoff prediction portal. All right, guys, with that being said, those are our week 6 picks and updates on our futures. Again, I stay away from parlays. I've been going more straight bets, taking 3 out of 2 on straight bets on these spreads. That leaves you with profit. If you want to take your more confident plays, you can do that as well. And then, of course, be on the lookout for our daily picks and our parlay of the day if you want to play. We've been doing really, really good on our favorite bet of the day. We're up, I want to say, like 12 games overall in profit. The parlay of the day, we've dropped 3 games below 500. At the end of the day, if we're hitting 500 on a parlay, that's great news just because of the odds that you're hitting. And you should be clearing money for those days that you're not winning. But at the end of the day, our bet of the day has been solid. So keep an eye on that for tomorrow. All right, guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and break down our top 25 matchups or games for all of our teams in week number 6 before we jump over to anything else, guys. Or before we end the video, I want to say, again, tomorrow be on the lookout for our UFC preview and analysis before our UFC fight night tomorrow night. Okay, guys? So we have Texas at OU, number 3 versus number 12. This is where College Game Day is at. And for a good reason. It is the marquee matchup of the week or weekend. It is a rivalry that always performs, except last year. Shout out to Texas, 49-0. It's going to be a matchup against these two teams that haven't faced each other in quite a while they were undefeated and the stakes were this high. So I'm very, very excited for this game, guys. I hope everybody else is. I do think Texas covers. I do think this over gets close to. I think this over has a pretty good chance at hitting as well, over 61. This is notoriously how this game goes, to be completely honest. So I'm going to take Texas minus 5.5. I'm going to take it pretty much into double digits, to be honest. It's going to be a raucous crowd. If you've ever seen it, if you ever seen it live, you're blessed and you're lucky, and I'm jealous. If you haven't seen it on TV, guys, please tune in tomorrow. It is beautiful to see the stadium. Half side crimson red, the other side burnt orange. It is beautiful. And then at halftime last year, you saw the crimson red just be completely whited out because it was all bleachers. The fans had left, and it was all Texas fans left. It was an awesome sight to see. I hope we get that again this year. If not, I hope for a competitive game, but of course, Texas to pull it off. And then we have number 25, Louisville, who is surprisingly undefeated, but very questionable wins against number 10, Notre Dame. This is another chance for Notre Dame to boost their resume. I do think they do so. I do think they have a strong chance at covering. Again, they get some weapons back on the outside, as well as just how strong they are in the run game. Similar to Texas, their offensive line just tends to always wear down on their opponents. In the second half, they break out big runs. And I think that's when they're going to go ahead and pull away. I do think this stays under again. We caught it at under 54.5. You see here at ESPN, it's even dropped to 53.5 now. Maryland at Ohio State. I think Maryland actually has a shot at covering here. I'm going to take Maryland to cover. Why? Because Maryland has a high-powered offense. I don't see... And who knows? Ohio State might be able to shut down the offense. We saw the defensive battle that Notre Dame and Ohio State was. The end of the day, I just think it was that matchup, to be completely honest, and you can easily see this one becoming a shootout, and end up being 37-20 and exactly hitting that line, to be completely honest. But I'm going to take Maryland to cover. I'm also going to take them to hit the over, guys. I do like this matchup. It's going to be high-powered offenses. Tagovailoa, the younger brother of Tua, has looked amazing so far this year. Ohio State, everybody's all of a sudden backing McCord again. I don't buy it as much yet. But I do think this remains competitive. I do think that Maryland is in there late, and they lose by 10 points, 14 points. But I don't see it becoming a 21-point victory for Ohio State. LSU at Missouri. Missouri, also another team that's been surprisingly good in the SEC. LSU, you shouldn't even be ranked anymore. I don't understand why they are. But they're 23, Missouri 21. I do like... I just want to keep getting on the bandwagon for LSU for some reason. I like week after week. It's just their offense is so good and their defense just leaves so much to desire for. This one's hard for me, guys. I really don't know which way to go. This is probably my least uncertain bet. I'm going to take LSU just because I haven't really seen Missouri play, so it's kind of like a prove it to me game here. But I'm going to take LSU to beat Missouri. I'm going to take them, I guess, to cover, even though I'm not really sure about it. And then the over, man, I was really wishing this was like at 60. I would take it easily. I'm going to still take it just because both of their defenses are terrible. They have explosive offenses, Burden is like number 10 in terms of Heisman voting odds for Missouri. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to be the over. I just think it's going to be explosive play after explosive play. Washington State at UCLA. It's a surprising line, right, guys? It seems like a rat line, and I want to jump on Washington State, number 13 team, facing an unranked team. We've seen Washington State be impressive. At the end of the day, I think it's Dante Moore. I know it's Moore for UCLA. Their freshman quarterback has looked awesome. He has great touch on his passes. It's in the Rose Bowl, so that's another credit to UCLA as well. I just think Washington State has a defense. We saw it against Oregon State, and they do have an awesome quarterback and offense in Ward. I'm going to take Washington State, guys. I'm going to take them here to cover the spread, and I honestly want to take a money line. So give me Washington State, and I'm also going to take the over. I'm going to take the under here because I do think Washington State's defense is the real deal in terms of trying to shut down Pac-12 teams as much as you possibly can. So I'm going to take Washington State here, and I'm going to take the under. All right, going down to Virginia Tech at Florida State, number 5 Florida State at 1:30 p.m. on ABC. This would be the game following Texas and OU. I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I'm going to take over 52.5. I'm going to take, because of that, I do think Virginia Tech's going to be able to put up some points against Florida State. We've seen Florida State kind of struggle at the beginning of games against lower ranked teams, and they don't come out with the same intensity. And I think that might be the case here. So give me Florida State to put up a couple touchdowns and cover this spread. So give me Virginia Tech plus 23.5, and then the over 52.5. Alabama at Texas A&M. We broke this down in our favorite picks, and actually the line might have moved back up. Now it's saying 2.5. Earlier today it was literally 1. Let me check the actual numbers where it's at. Yeah, it's gone back up to 2.5, guys. So this line is going everywhere. I'm not sure if it's like big money coming in on one side or the other. But I'm telling you, it started off as 3.5 for Alabama, dropped all the way down to 1. I was at 1 this morning. I had taken it at 2 on Wednesday night. And now it's at 2.5. I'm just taking Alabama money line, but I also like Alabama spread. I do think they can win this if it's a close game, a walk-off field goal type of deal. But I do think Alabama wins this game. Again, there's some injury concerns on the A&M side. I do think Alabama does not sleepwalk this game. The last time they were in College Station, they did lose. Milroe does have the experience against A&M. People do forget that he's the one that led Alabama to the victory last year against them because Bryce Young was hurt. So I'm going to take Alabama in their running style. I'm going to take Milroe to have a couple of big gains on the ground and through the air, similar to what we saw against UT. And I do think Alabama wins this game. Syracuse at number 14, North Carolina. I like the over here. Both offenses are pretty sharp, so give me over 59.5. North Carolina's defense is suspect at times, and I think it's going to be suspect here. They might get down early and have to come back, so I'm going to take Syracuse plus 9.5. Kentucky, Georgia. This is the time that Georgia might be upsetted, guys. Georgia has come out of games very, very slow. I'm not sold on Beck. I do think there's a big question mark. Kentucky coming off a huge blowout victory against Florida, and I don't even think it's going to be a hangover. It wasn't like a walk-off field goal or anything. They dominated that game. Absolutely dominated to where I think even at the end of the game, it was kind of like scheming to what they're going to be trying to do against Georgia, to be completely honest. I do think Kentucky has a very, very solid shot, and I kind of wish I would have put them in my picks, to be completely honest. I'm going to take Kentucky plus 14.5. I do think this is going to be a one-touchdown game, to be completely honest. I am also going to take over 47.5 just because I think Kentucky needs to win in terms of scoring points, like in a shootout, rather than trying to shut down Georgia and Georgia shutting them down. I do think that plays into Georgia's favor. They just have a better defense overall. You have to take advantage of them on their offensive end, and you have to put up points to put some pressure on the Georgia offense, who's been a suspect at times. All right, guys, and then let's go ahead and go Michigan, Minnesota. Michigan visiting Minnesota. I'm going to take Michigan here. They've been dominating every team. We saw Minnesota look very suspect against Nebraska. So I'm going to take Michigan to cover 18.5. I'm also going to take the under here. I'm going to take the under because I could see this being like a 28-7 game. So I'm going to take the under. So under for this game, Michigan covering 18.5. I just think Michigan dominates the entire way. They run the ball like always, and then they shut out Minnesota. So give me Michigan. Arkansas at Ole Miss. I see Ole Miss winning this game. I slept on them last week. I don't know if they cover 12 though. Like it's a very physical team with Arkansas. However, they did leave a lot to be desired against A&M. I thought that was gonna be a much closer game. You just never know, man. Like they do have a quarterback and a running back that feels like they've been there forever. Um, and they just never pull it off. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's more of a defensive thing this year. Who knows? So for that reason, I'll take the over 61.5 because both offenses can be explosive. And then I'm gonna take Ole Miss to cover. I think they can backdoor cover at the end of the game. Miami at Georgia Tech. I'm gonna take Miami here. I'm also gonna take them to cover. They've looked explosive. I'm not sold on King. We saw what he does at A&M last year. Just not a very good quarterback. The fact that they even won 2 games with him is surprising. And then Miami's just explosive. I'm still not sold on them. I just think they're a better team than Georgia Tech either way. But yeah, Van Dyke is able to put up points on offense with Miami, so I'm going to take them. I'm also going to take the over here. I'm hoping King can throw 1 or 2 touchdowns to help us get the over. So yeah, give me this. Give me Miami at -20. Give me the over 57.5. Fresno State at Wyoming. Fresno State's a 6-point favorite. Fresno State has looked dominant, guys. So has Wyoming's. Wyoming's look pretty good. The only loss on their schedule is Texas. Um, it's at Wyoming. That stadium has proven to be a problem to people. What's that team down in Lubbock that's supposed to be good? Oh, they're not good though. But they're Texas Tech, but they're not good. But the Big 12 conference, I guess, does run through them supposedly. But yeah, Fresno State's I think is a better team. I'm gonna take the upset. I'm gonna go on a limb and take the upset, just because how good Wyoming has looked, to be honest, and Fresno State hasn't played. I mean, many opponents, to be completely honest, that are competent and good enough. So the Mountain West Showdown. I'm gonna take Wyoming because they're at home because they've looked good. Give me Wyoming, and I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take over 43.5. I do think this can get into a 20+ ball game for each squad. Um, Oregon State at California. Give me Oregon State, and I'm going to take them at 8. They were at 9.5 earlier in the week, and that one was kind of hard for me to get behind. I'm going to take them -8. I'm going to take them against California. California has put up some good performances. At the end of the day, I'm not sold on their team. I do think this is a game that Oregon State could look like what they were looking like at the beginning of the year, just running all over teams in that pro-style offense, and I do think that's what they do against California here. I think California is more of a speedy, rangy team to compete against teams like USC, or not compete, but like put up bigger fights against USC. I do think they can't. I don't think they can survive smash mouth football play that Oregon State plays. So I'm going to take Oregon State to cover. Then I'm going to take under 51. USC at Arizona. Let's just take over 72, just because USC's defense is absolutely disgusting and terrible. And I'm actually going to take Arizona cover here. Why? Because Colorado was able to cover. And Arizona's better team than Colorado. So yeah, I'm going to take USC to win. I'm going to take Arizona to cover, and I'm going to take the over just because both teams have competent offenses. We know how elite USC's offense is behind Caleb Williams, a Heisman favorite. I mean, look at these stats, guys. 1603 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Like it's astronomical numbers. At the end of the day, his defense is so damn bad. And I'm going to say that that's why it keeps Arizona in the game. They're able to cover 21 points. So with that being said, guys, that is a breakdown of our top 25 slate. Again, we're in for some pretty good games. The marquee matchup, Oklahoma at Texas. But I think Notre Dame puts on a performance over in Louisville. This should be a high-scoring game. LSU and Missouri. Alabama, Texas A&M. I think there's going to be drama in the afternoon slate. I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think this is our chance for an upset against Georgia, with Kentucky visiting Georgia. And then our Pac-12 action on later at night never fails. And I'm going to be watching that USC and Arizona game. I can see it being an explosive game. I do think Oregon State gets it back together against California. And then seeing these mid-majors to face off, one team ranked number 24. And if it wasn't for Texas, Wyoming could be right there with them. I mean, just credit to Wyoming for facing a more difficult schedule. They faced Texas Tech, who isn't that good, and then they faced Texas. So shout out to Wyoming for putting on some extremely difficult games at the beginning of the year, and I think that's why they're not in the position that Fresno State is. And I do think Wyoming pulls off this upset +6. All right, guys. With that being said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. That is our college football week 6 preview. I hope you guys enjoy your guys' weekend. Again, go check out our Sports News Weekly channel. It will be released on Sundays or Wednesdays. Of course, always updated on the Instagram and Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a share, give us a retweet. Subscribe on YouTube, guys, and just watch our videos. Again, if you guys ever want to collab, please let me know. DM me, message me, comment. I'm happy to collab, guys. I want this to be a community. I want to have shared conversations. I want to discuss these games with other people. This is just a hobby. Let's see where it goes. But I appreciate the community, guys. I appreciate the support as always. I hope you guys enjoy this channel. If you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. But I also hope you guys enjoy this college football week 5 slate. I hope you guys enjoy the month of October. It's a loaded one for sports. And with that being said, guys, have a good one. Be safe this Friday. Tune in to the college football games on Saturday. And please tune in to our UFC Fight Night preview tomorrow morning. Have a good one, guys.